So moving forward, my new mantra as I made that transition out of the classroom was that even if you're serving others, you don't have to stay if it's not serving you anymore. You are listening to the Beyond the Classroom podcast, a podcast for burnt-out teachers who know something's gotta give. After teaching for 14 years and feeling completely burned out for way too long, in May of 2022, I made a big decision and left the classroom. I now help burnt-out teachers like you take back balance and joy so you can wake up every day loving your life. In this podcast, we'll explore who you are beyond the classroom, whether you're considering leaving or wanting to make changes so you can fall in love with teaching again. Either way, I understand what it's like to be living a life that looks fun and cute on the outside. You know, summer's off, playing all day, off at 2 o'clock every day, but actually feels miserable and draining. I'm your host and coach, Sandy Patterson, and I'm so excited to help you step into your fullest potential and believe in that potential to make an impact on the world, not just survive each day. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello there, and welcome back to the Beyond the Classroom podcast. I am so excited that you're here today to chat with me. So today's episode is going to be a little bit of a touchy one, but I think that there are a lot of people out there that need to hear this, especially after all of the coffee chats I've had recently. I'm hearing a lot of the same things from real teachers just like you, and I just want to dig a little bit deeper and chat about these things. So today we're going to talk 5 signs you might not love teaching anymore. And I want you to know that if you just heard the title of the episode or you saw the title and you're like, yeah, that's me, that it's okay. It's okay however you are feeling right now about teaching, about your situation, it's okay. So all of your feelings are valid. Somebody else is probably going through the same exact things, and that is the reason that I am sharing this episode today. And one of the scariest things for me was to admit that I wasn't happy teaching anymore. And I buried this feeling for a really long time and just accepted how things were. I shouldn't feel unhappy or complain because I have summers off, but in reality, I was absolutely miserable and it was beginning to impact other parts of my life. One of the scariest things for me was to admit that I wasn't happy teaching anymore. And I buried this feeling for a really long time, longer than I even probably recognized. And I just kind of accepted how things were. And I thought to myself, unconsciously, I thought I shouldn't feel unhappy or complain because, you have summers off, you have great breaks. But in reality, I was miserable teaching and it was beginning to impact other parts of my life, which is what caused my big life change and for me to leave teaching. And I think when people in other professions, say like a lawyer or a banker or whoever, want to leave their job because they're unhappy, nobody really bats an eye. However, there's this stigma with teachers that we serve and we give, and if we admit that that's not working out for us anymore, it's somehow perceived as selfish because we serve others. So moving forward, my new mantra as I made that transition out of the classroom was that even if you're serving others, you don't have to stay if it's not serving you anymore. And I kind of held on to that so you can borrow that thought too, if it pertains to you. So here are 5 questions you can ask yourself to start to dig deep. And most of these pertain to other professions too, or any situation, not just teaching. Number 1, you dread going to work. So when I say you dread going to work, I mean more than the Sunday scaries. It's like everyday scaries, which are leading to anxiety. And now I know Sunday scaries are a real thing, and I know that, we kind of laugh about them. But when those Sunday scaries start seeping into Saturday, and then you can't seem to shake them on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, and it's basically the everyday scaries, it's something to dig and look at. So it's one thing to be bummed to have to go to work, right? But it's another thing when you completely dread going to work every day. When you literally have to drag yourself out of the car as you're sitting in the parking lot, like with tears in your eyes to go into work, that's an issue. And I thought this was normal, that that's how everyone feels, but it turns out that that's actually not normal. So if you are in that situation now, I would encourage you to really dig and think. It may be a sign that teaching or whatever situation you're in isn't serving you anymore. Number 2, you are physically starting to feel it. So your body is actually telling you that something is off. So towards the end of my teaching experience, I was getting sick all the time. Like I constantly had a cold. I pretty much had a headache all the time. And I know that teachers get sick more often than maybe other people because they're around, germy kids all day. And I get that. But I was always tired, even on the weekends and breaks. And even when I knew that I had gotten enough sleep that I shouldn't be this tired, I was just exhausted all the time. And looking back on it now, I see that that was my body's way of telling me that something wasn't right. So even if your conscious mind is pretending everything is okay, your body will physically give you signs that something is off, that you need to rest. So pay attention to your body, get to know what's normal for you, and then what's out of the ordinary. Number 3. Okay, I hope nobody gets offended by this. And if you do, I apologize. But number 3, you don't really like being around kids. So this is a touchy one because I do like kids. I like my own kids. I like most kids. I like my friends' kids. I like kids in general. But I'm going to be super, super honest here because I promised myself that that's what I was going to do when I started this podcast and share my story. I just didn't want to be responsible for other people's kids anymore. And after COVID, there was a huge shift in parenting and in society, and it essentially became a teacher's job to raise people's kids. And at least that's how I felt. And I was blamed for everything that was going wrong as far as the kids. And there was no responsibility on the parents' end, like literally no accountability for kids or parents. It felt to me like the kids could do whatever they wanted and there were zero consequences. And this was exhausting to show up every day trying to fix this problem when it was an uphill battle. And I just felt like I didn't want to be responsible for other people's kids anymore. Like raising my own 2 boys is stressful enough, and then add 25 more to that and feel like you're never actually doing a sufficient job with anyone or anywhere, it added to that stress and anxiety for me. Now, please keep in mind, this is just my opinion, my thoughts, my feelings, but I'm going to assume that I'm not alone in feeling this way. So, number 4, your friends or family are noticing a difference in you. So when your family and friends start to notice that something's off, this could definitely be a sign that you need to take a look at how your job or your situation or whatever it might be is impacting your life. So my husband started to notice a difference in me. That's when I kind of realized that the severity of the situation was bigger than I initially thought. He compared it to when we had our first son, and that fog of being a new mom and having hormones all over the place and just being like a hot mess in that postpartum funk. I was completely off after that. And this is what he compared it to. I was just like not my usual positive, happy self. I wasn't excited about things that normally really make me excited. And I'm sure that my own kids at home noticed this too. And towards the end there, I was physically present with my family, but I didn't feel like I had anything left at the end of the day to give my own kids. Like I was basically in a fog, like dreading knowing that I was going to have to get up the next day and do it all again. So that wasn't fair to me, and it wasn't fair to my family. Finally, number 5, you're resentful because of your work-life balance. And this is a huge one for teachers. And I know how tricky this is because teaching is absolutely a job where you really have to do a ton of work outside of the school day in order to be effective. And I'm not sure how like anyone thinks that actually works. But at least where I taught, we had 0 prep time outside of our contracted time. So that led to constant work outside of my contracted hours. And it was actual physical work, like prepping materials, but it was also emotional work too, worrying about my students, worrying about my families. And yes, while it's great having breaks and summers off and all of that, but I thought about work all the time. I was constantly thinking about work. And yes, you could argue that this was a choice, but I did feel that in order to be the best teacher I could be and give my students the best experience, that there was no way I couldn't bring work home or do work at home. And I found myself always thinking about school and my students. I worried about them over the weekends. I was constantly prepping things for school, constantly thinking about lessons and planning and all the things that I needed to do. And of course, this was a boundary issue, but it caused me to rethink my career choice. And towards the end of my teaching time, my teaching experience in the classroom, I was able to really peel back a lot of layers and pull back and just do the bare minimum. And I was still effective. My students still learned. I was still there showing up, but I wish that I had have recognized these things earlier on, because maybe that would have changed the outcome. Not that I would change anything or change my outcome at all, but just keeping that in mind. So if any of these things are true for you too, in any situation you're in, I would encourage you to pay close attention and really dig deep and be honest with yourself about what you truly want out of life. And I know that it can be scary to think the path that we're on, the path that we were planning to be on, might not be the best path for us anymore. It's terrifying to veer off and find yourself on a different path, a path that you never envisioned yourself on, or that you're unsure of, or you're not sure where it leads to. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that staying where you are, if you are miserable and if you are exhausted and if you have that little inkling in your heart that maybe there's something else out there, just for the sake of avoiding anything scary, is something you will absolutely regret. And like I said, in hindsight, I wish I had paid attention to these things sooner in order to make the changes that I needed in order to get where I am now sooner. So what I would have done in hindsight is paid closer attention to myself, honored my feelings, knowing that they weren't wrong, and not to feel ashamed of them or guilty about anything, and not been embarrassed about how I was feeling. Would I change anything? No, because every single crappy thing that's happened and that I made it through led me to here, where I am today. Not that where I am today is where I'm going to be 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, but I've really learned to enjoy the journey and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable on a path that is really uncertain. So I chose not to let those 5 things, take a permanent hold over me, and I made a big change. And by sharing these things, I hope to let you know that if you feel any of these things too, even if you just feel one of them, that you are not alone. You're not wrong. You're not selfish. You're human, and you're an amazing human at that. And the sky is the absolute limit for you. So thank you for listening today. I can't wait to hear what resonates with you, what stuck out, or any of your thoughts. So please make sure to share them. I love connecting and talking with you. I'll see you next time. I can't wait. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Classroom. If you know something has to change and you're ready to take the next step to make it happen, whether it's in or out of the classroom, let's talk it through together. Schedule a no-obligation chat with me and we can talk through where you're stuck, how to get you unstuck, and how to keep you moving forward. Schedule your free call today by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to connect with you.